Let's look at the real exam questions part 8 related to AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. I would request you to please like and subscribe my channel. Uh, please like my videos. This gives me a lot of motivation to keep posting more videos. So today we will do some more questions. Let's straight away jump on to this question. What function do security groups serve related to EC2 instance security? So basically it is asking, the keyword is security groups for EC2. What does it do for EC2? Let's look at the options. The options are: act as virtual firewall for EC2 instances. Yes, it does act as a firewall. Secure AWS user accounts with IAM. No, that's not the purpose of security groups. Provide DDoS protection. No, DDoS. AWS Shield provides as protection, not security groups. Use Amazon CloudFront to protect the EC2 instance. No, this is also wrong. CloudFront is usually put in front of websites for caching and near location uh, access. So this is also wrong. So A is the right answer, but let's look at the AWS documentation as well. So here's the documentation. If you see this, a security group acts as a firewall for EC2 instances to control incoming and outgoing traffic. So here goes our answer. Hence, option A is correct. Let's look at the next question. Which disaster recovery scenario offers the lowest probability of downtime? Lowest probability. That's a keyword. Okay. So backup and restore. So this is a disaster recovery question. Backup and restore will still have some downtime, because once the system goes down, you will take a backup and you will restore. So that or you will restore from a previous backup, but that restoration will take time. So there will be some downtime. So this is not the lowest probability. Pilot light. So let's look at the documentation. So this is backup and restore. We saw this. Pilot light. What is pilot light? Pilot light is an analogy that comes from gas heating. In this scenario, a small flame is always on quickly. So what it means is, a portion of the systems which is very critical is always backed up, and but the entire system is not backed up. Only the critical portion is backed up. So pilot light, is it something where there will be small downtime? Yes, there will be downtime for some other non-critical applications. And our question is asking, it is just saying disaster recovery scenario. It is not saying that it is a partial scenario or a full scenario. It is just saying disaster recovery scenario. That means it should be full scenario. All applications should be backed up, so that there is a disaster recovery possible. So let's look at other options. Warm standby. The term standby is used to describe a DR scenario in which scaled down version of a fully functional environment is always running in the cloud. Okay, so in this, what we had seen is, in the pilot, uh, in this DR approach, you simply replicate your part of your IT infrastructure to a limited set of core services. And here it's saying is, small portion is always on. And let's look at multi-site. The multi-site solution runs AWS on your existing infrastructure in an active configuration. So I hope you understand what is active. That means at any point in time, there are two systems always running. This is very cost intensive, very expensive, but it will have lowest downtime or probably no downtime. So our question is not asking for cost effectiveness. It is asking for lowest probability of downtime. This is the keyword. Hence, multi-site active should be the right answer. So let's look at the next question. What will help a company perform a cost benefit analysis of migrating to AWS cloud? So the keyword is cost benefit analysis. You are not yet on cloud. Your company wants to perform a cost benefit analysis before migrating to cloud. So the options are Cost Explorer. If you see Cost Explorer, that is an easy to use interface that lets you visualize, understand, and manage your AWS costs and usage over time. You are already on cloud. It is helping you to manage whatever resources your company or your department is using on cloud. It's a very different purpose. Our question is saying how you will calculate what will be the cost of going on cloud. Now the other option says AWS total cost of ownership calculator. Let's look at this one as well. If you see this website, there's a fantastic AWS blog. Here it says the total cost of ownership of running workloads in cloud compares to the running them on premises. This is what we need. It gives you one consistent conclusion weighing the financial considerations of owning and operating a data center or co-located facility versus employing a cloud infrastructure or cloud service. So this is what we need. And so option B looks absolutely correct, but let's scan through option C and D. C says simple monthly calculator. Now, this calculator is an easy to use online tool. It enables you to estimate the monthly cost of AWS services for your use case based on your expected usage. This is you are already on cloud, you want to use some more services and you are just looking at how much will be my monthly cost. Do take some time to go online and check this simple monthly calculator. This is how it looks like. You can choose your region, you can add new rows, you can choose what services you are planning, and accordingly it will give you an estimated of your monthly bill. But that is not the answer for our question. Let's scan through the last option, AWS Trusted Advisor. Now, if you see this documentation, AWS Trusted Advisor is a online tool. It provides real-time guidance. Okay, this is key, real-time guidance to help you provision your resources. What it does is it provides checks to optimize your AWS infrastructure, increase security and performance, and reduce your overall cost and monitor service limits. It's a very different purpose. It will not give you an estimate of in-premises versus cloud. Hence here option B is the correct answer. Let's look at this question. Which of the following provides the ability to share the cost benefits of reserved instances across AWS accounts? So the keyword here is you want to share the cost benefits of reserved instances, and the next keyword is across AWS accounts. Across. Let's look at the options. So this option, Cost Explorer, will just give you the cost of the resources for your account. This here you cannot see the benefits of reserved instance usage. Linked accounts and consolidated billing. This seems to be the correct answer. Now let's look at some documentation on consolidated billing. So you can use this consolidated billing feature. It's a part of AWS organizations. What it does is it consolidates billing and payment for multiple accounts. If you have multiple accounts, you can bring everything into one space so that the billing can be consolidated at one place. Now, our question is saying whether it helps with the reserve instance. So let's look here how it helps for the reserve instances. So for billing purposes, the consolidated billing feature uh, treats all accounts in the organization as one account. This is key. It treats all account as one account, and all accounts in the organization receive hourly cost benefit of reserved instances. Okay, so that way it is billing at a consolidated level and very efficient to manage your costs. So option B looks correct, but let's scan through C and D as well. Let's look at the reserved instance utilization and coverage reports. So see, this is a part of Cost Explorer. Okay, and why it is used is you can set your utilization and coverage targets, and you can visualize how well you are tracking towards your goals. This will not help you with cost benefits. It will help you with tracking your costs, tracking your goals. But our question is different. Our question says provides the ability to share the cost benefits of reserved instances across accounts. So reserved instance utilization report is not serving that purpose. EC2 instance usage report between AWS accounts. See, what this report does is it enables you to analyze the cost and usage of your EC2 instances and usage of your reserved instances, but it will not give you that uh, consolidated saving. Hence, B is the correct answer. Let's look at this one. A company has multiple AWS accounts and wants to simplify and consolidate its billing process. Okay, it has multiple billing accounts. So if you want to consolidate its billing process, it's a no-brainer. Always remember, billing consolidation, account consolidation from billing standpoint is always done at by AWS organizations. Budgets is used to set a target that this will be your budget, and if it exceeds the threshold, it will send you alerts. A very different purpose. Cost Explorer and cost and usage reports just to monitor your current costs. But if you want to simplify and consolidate the billing process, organizations is the place where you do that. Now, a lot of people don't believe me, so I always put a link. I always show you in the documentation. So in this case, you can use consolidate billing feature in AWS organizations to consolidate billing and payment for multiple AWS accounts. So this is our answer. Hence option B is correct. So let's look at this question. A company is designing an application hosted in a single AWS region, serving end users. So this one says a company is designing an application hosted in a single AWS region, serving end users spread across the world. So this is a keyword. It's across the world. The company wants to provide the end users low latency access to application data. So this is also keyword, low latency access. So you're deploying your application in a single AWS region and you are serving the end users who are global, that is across the world. Okay, and then you want everybody to have low latency. So if you are hosting in a single AWS region, suppose in uh, East America, North America, East America. So if you're hosting in East America and you want your users in London to have low latency access, or users in France to have low latency access, what will you do? So this one, let's scan through the options. So CloudFront looks to be the right option because that is the purpose of CloudFront. If you see this documentation, it says low latency access, high transfer speeds. Direct Connect is used to create private networks uh, with your on-premises. So it's a different purpose. Route 53 is primarily used for routing of DNS, and S3 transfer acceleration. So if you see the transfer acceleration, its purpose is to transfer files as fast as possible between your client, between your client and S3 bucket. So how does it accelerate? It uses CloudFront, that is a distributed edge location. So there are different edge locations. Uh, so how the transfer speed is accelerated is instead of using the World Wide Web, it gets into a private network of AWS using edge locations, and that way it provides faster access. But that is using CloudFront. So CloudFront is the answer for this because CloudFront is mainly used to provide low latency. So option D is actually making use of CloudFront. But for this question, the answer is CloudFront. Okay, let's look at this one. Which of the following deployment models enables customers to fully trade their capital IT expenses for operational expenses? So what is happening is, you know, capital expenses is like if you want to set up an infrastructure or data center, then you have to buy all those hardwares upfront, and that will cost you a huge amount of money upfront. So the question is saying you don't want to do that and you want to only pay for your operational expenses. So it's like capital expenses like buying your own car, and operational expenses like renting out a car through, for example, Hertz rental AWS, etc. So option A is on-premises. So on-premises is top heavy on capital IT expenses, because if you have an infrastructure and if you want to expand it, you have to buy all the hardwares to augment your infrastructure. That is all capital expense. Okay, so hybrid is a combination of on-premise and cloud. So so since it's a combination of on-premise and cloud, on-premise will still attract capital expenses. Okay, so relatively compared to a hybrid is better, but uh, since the question says fully trade, so they do not want partial, so hybrid will only partially trade the capital expenses for the portion that is on cloud. C says cloud. Okay, cloud fully trades because you would reduce your capital IT expenses uh, to negligible. Everything is operational as you do a pay as you go. So if you're having a EC2 instance which is reserved, so that is where you have an option to do some upfront payment to get a better deal. Otherwise, everything is operational. Platform as a service. So if this option doesn't suggest whether a platform as a service is on cloud or not. So if you can also create a platform as a service in your in-premises infrastructure. So if you're not on cloud, you are not going to fully trade your capital expenses. And option C is the right answer. So how is asset management on AWS easier than asset management in a physical data center? So in this case, you know, AWS performs infrastructure discovery scans on customers' behalf. So what you can do is um, use the discovery service on your on-premises applications, and it will exactly tell you what kind of workloads are there. So you can go through this section. So if there are thousands of workloads and which are deeply interdependent, so what it means is if you just happen by mistake to just move 60% of the workload migrated to cloud and 40% is not migrated, that 60% which is migrated will not work because these are interdependent workloads. So hence this service, what it does is it collects and presents configuration, usage, and behavior data from your on-premises servers so that you can better understand your workloads. And it can be exported as a CSV, and this can be used to understand the total cost of ownership. And B is the right answer. If you see other options like option D, what it does is API calls, it uses API calls to get the asset metadata. You can do this in a cloud environment, uh, but you cannot, do it with your physical data centers. And AWS provides a configuration management database that users can maintain. Configuration management helps you uh, maintain proper audits, like tools like AWS config helps you to assess, audit, and evaluate the configurations of your AWS resources. Okay, but this tool, it doesn't work on premises. Let's move to the next question. I would request you to subscribe to my channel and like my videos so that it provides me more motivation to upload more questions. What feature of RDS helps you to create globally redundant databases? What it means is you have a database in uh, east region of North America, and then uh, you want to create a redundant database. Redundant means duplicate, and you would also want to do that in the west coast region, and you also want to do that in one of the European regions, maybe London. Okay, so that will provide better read capabilities for your applications for customers sitting in those locations. So the question says which feature of RDS helps to do that. So first option is snapshots. See, snapshots helps you. It's like a export and import. You can take a snapshot from one region and put it across in another region. But uh, you know that will not help you maintain a globally redundant database. It's one of the options. You can schedule the snapshots and move it to S3, and then you can restore it. So usually we use snapshots for disaster recovery. Automatic patching and updating. This doesn't help you to create redundant databases. It is just a matter of patching and upgrading will help you update the softwares, but it will not help you with duplication. Cross region read replicas. This is the right answer. Read replicas, what it does is it would create it will have a read and write region. Suppose in east region of North America, and then it will create read replicas. It will always have those read replicas. Suppose one in Europe and one in an Asian country. So these read replicas will be automatically updating itself the moment there is a write operation to the master database. So this is how you maintain a globally redundant database. So this option C is correct. So using IAM to grant access only to the resources needed to perform a task is a concept known as. So if you had exposure to any of the security work, like if you interacted with the security teams or you were a part of it, you would always know that always provide least privilege access. Okay, because that will avoid any security threats. So if somebody just needs a read access to a database and just to one database, just provide them access to that one database. Don't provide them read and write both. Okay? So this concept is known as least privilege access. And this, I would say, it's a thumb rule. Just by heart it. Whenever you give an access, suppose someone wants to uh, access a, a particular floor in an office. So what does the security team do? They provide least access. They provide access to get in the building, and then they provide access for that floor. So that guy, even though he or she gets into the building, they cannot go to a different floor because the access privileges won't work. So that is called least privilege access. Let's look at this one. Which methods can be used to identify AWS costs by departments? Okay, so identify AWS costs by department. So for example, you have a consolidated billing and you want to understand for each department what was the cost. So how would you do that? So at a high level, tags are it's something which is definitely used that I remember, because tags can help you identify which resources. So you can use a different tag for a finance department, a different for a HR department. So let's look at the options. Enable multi-factor authentication. So this is incorrect because you can do a double layered security by putting a multi-factor authentication, but that is not something which you can use to identify the AWS costs. B says create separate accounts for each department. Yes, if you have separate accounts and you have uh, a bill where you can just say an account for finance and account for HR, that will be easier for you to understand, yeah, what is the consumption or the usage of each department. So B looks to be correct, but we want to choose two options. Use reserved instances whenever possible. Reserved instances is correct. You should use it to reduce your cost, but the question is not asking you to reduce the cost. It is asking you to identify AWS cost by departments. They want to identify what was the cost of finance, what was the cost of HR department. So this will not help you. D says use tags to associate each instance with a particular department. Yes, tagging is a good way of identifying the costs. So D looks correct. And he says pay bills using purchase orders. That doesn't help. You have to just pay your monthly bills as and when it comes. Hence options B and D are correct. So let's look at this one under the AWS shared responsibility model. Customer responsibilities include which one of the following? Okay, so here this is a question of shared responsibility model. So securing the hardware, software facilities, networks. Is this a customer responsibility? No. AWS will have access to the hardware. Customer never has access to the hardware uh, or facilities or setting up the networks, etc. That is with AWS. Option B suggests providing certificates, reports, and other documentation directly to AWS customers under NDA. This is an AWS responsibility, not a customer responsibility. Uh, for example, if they have a HIPAA compliance certificate, then AWS would provide it. Some of them are already in artifacts, but AWS would tell you or guide you that you can refer the artifacts to access the certificates, etc. So this is not a customer responsibility. C says configuring the operating system, network, and firewall. Now this is something which uh, customers have to do it, because configuring the operating system is like if you're creating a EC2 instance, whether you want to configure a Linux operating system or a Windows operating system, this is customer's responsibility. Creating a firewall is a customer's responsibility. So security groups for EC2 instances can act as firewall. So when you create a EC2 instance, you set up what IPs you want to allow as a part of your security groups. You can do that. You can configure DDoS for additional protection. This is something customers have to do it. So C is correct. D says obtaining industry certifications and independent third-party attestations. This is something which AWS will do it. So for example, when AWS approached for HIPAA compliance, it it was AWS responsibility, not your responsibility to get HIPAA compliance for your portion of the cloud usage. This is something which AWS does it. So hence D is also wrong. C is the correct option. Which managed AWS service provides real-time guidance on AWS security best practices? So this is trusted advisor, because whenever you see this question, it's a no-brainer. Trusted advisor provides this guidance. CloudWatch is used to watch a certain set of metrics. It may be uh, some metrics which is available within AWS, or you may create a custom metrics. Okay. So X-ray is a distributed tracking system, tracing system. It helps developers analyze and debug production distributed applications such as those built using microservices architecture. It's a very different purpose. Uh, Systems manager, it provides a unified user interface so you can view the operational data from multiple AWS services and allows you to automate operational tasks. It's a different purpose. Our question says to provide real-time guidance on the security best practices, and trusted advisor looks correct. Please like my videos and subscribe my channel. Needless to say that this gives me more motivation to upload more solid justifications for each and every options, so that when you appear for the exam, you would be very sure that you are giving the right answers. Which feature adds elasticity to EC2 instances to handle changing demand for workloads? So this is always auto scaling group, because when you want elasticity in a EC2 instance, you can do that through auto scaling group. Auto scaling group, it is a collection of EC2 instances that are treated as a logical grouping for the purpose of automatic scaling and management. Elasticity means automatic scaling and management. Option D is right. Life cycle policies, it's a property or a feature of S3 buckets, where you can move the files through a life cycle to cold storage, from hot storage to cold storage through a life cycle and a certain set of time period. Load balancer is used to divert the loads to specific EC2 instances. It is not used to provide elasticity for the EC2 instances. Under the AWS shared responsibility model, customers are responsible for which aspects of security in the cloud. So, in the shared responsibility model, you always know that there is some portion which AWS is accountable for, and there are some portion for which customers are accountable. Let's choose two options because the question says choose two options. Visualization management, customer responsible for which aspects of security in the cloud. So it is asking of security. Visualization management, probably if you're building visualizations using QuickSight, it is something which customers are responsible for. But visualization management is not used for aspects of security. Hence, this answer is wrong. Hardware management. Hardware management, customers are never responsible for. That is AWS's responsibility. Encryption management. This is something which customers would be responsible for, because they can decide whether they want to use an encryption or not, or they want to use client-side encryption or server-side encryption, or they would bring their own keys, uh, or they would use KMS generated keys, etc., or they would use hardware level keys through HSM. It is customer's responsibility. Facilities management, AWS facility you cannot enter as a customer. It is totally AWS's prerogative. They manage it. Uh, Firewall management is something which we do it as a customer, because you can create your EC2 instances. You can set up security groups. The security groups act as firewalls. So these two are the correct answers. This question suggests which AWS hybrid storage service enables on-premises applications to seamlessly use AWS cloud storage. So whenever you talk about hybrid, it's always storage gateway. Okay, Snowball and Snowball Edge are used where you will get a suitcase kind of thing, uh, a, a big box in your premises. You said you have to first put a request. You will get it in a week. Then you would copy the data inside the Snowball. AWS would then, after you dispatch it or courier it, AWS would then put it into their cloud environments. So that is not used for hybrid storage. A direct connect is used for direct virtual private network between your on-premises and cloud, so that only you as a customer are there on the network. None of the other customers can be on that network. So hence the correct option is AWS Storage Gateway. So what is the responsibility of AWS in the shared responsibility model? In the previous questions, we looked at what is customer's responsibility. Now this question is asking about what is AWS's responsibility. Updating the network ACLs. So ACLs is your responsibility as a customer. AWS will not do it. You can do it yourself. When you create a EC2 instance, you can do it. Patching operating systems running on EC2 instance, that is your work, customer's responsibility. So for example, you created your EC2 instances a year back, and now there is a new patch of Linux. You will have to do it. Uh, Updating the firmware on the underlying EC2 hosts. This is something which AWS will have to do it, because the firmware and the hardware under the EC2 host, you would never have access to it. You will have to get into the AWS premises to do it, and that is something which AWS employees can do it for you. Hence option C is correct. Let's look at D as well. Updating the security group rules to block traffic to the vulnerable ports. This is your responsibility. When you create EC2 instance, putting or configuring certain IPs who can access it, access the instance, it is your responsibility. So what architectural principle is used when deploying an Amazon RDS instance in multiple AZ mode? So implement loose coupling, design for failure, automate everything that can be automated, and use services, not servers. So if you talk about architectural principle, you should always design for failure. Whenever you have a database, RDS is a database, any database service, you should always design for a failure. Implementing loose coupling is if you're having a big set of applications where you have certain set of microservices, databases, some more services, etc. That time you should use loose coupling. But when you're saying just purely deploying RDS, that is should be designed for failure. Automate everything that can be automated. Yes, you can do that, but you should only do it when, like, if you have certain set of application, or you can use AWS uh, configuration to understand what are the changes being done to your database, etc., etc., or cloud formation for deploying applications. But that is about full set of applications. When you talk about database, it's the first correct answer is designed for failure. And use services, not servers, it's not always true, because you know, if you have a lot of third party applications, you would put EC2 server. And if you think you want to reduce costs and you have small jobs, functions, you can put it through Lambda. But always remember, Lambda has a execution time limit. I think beyond 15 minutes of execution it would kill itself about. What does it mean to grant least privilege to AWS IAM users? So least privilege we always told about, uh, you know, option D. It is granting only the permissions required to perform a given task. So I'm not going to delve into other options because it is very much straightforward. What is the benefit of loose coupling as a principle of cloud architecture design? So it facilitates low latency. So principle of uh, loose coupling. It facilitates low latency request handling. No, not necessarily. It allows applications to have dependent workflows, not dependent, independent workflows. So B is also wrong. C says it prevents cascading failures between different components. Yes, this is correct. And D says it allows companies to focus on the physical data center operations. No, uh, when you're doing a loose coupling in a cloud environment, you're not focusing on the data center. A director has been tasked with investigating hybrid cloud architecture. The company currently accesses AWS over public internet, which service will facilitate private hybrid connectivity. So whenever we say private hybrid connectivity, it is always direct connect. So transfer acceleration, option C, it uses edge locations and CloudFront for accelerating the speed of the transfer, but then that is not providing you access, you know, over a private network. So you want to provide a private network. And D is the firewall service, so WAF. So you can install firewall to allow undesired or undesired IPs accessing your applications. But this is also not a right option in this case. So, and the option A, NAT gateway, it has a different purpose. NAT gateway is used when you have multiple EC2 instances and you don't want to expose the actual master instance. So you create a EC2 instance which acts as a NAT gateway and you configure the routing tables. So it doesn't provide you full private connectivity. So this brings us to the end of part 8. I have covered approximately 21 questions in this video. Please go through them to understand the detailed explanations. And I've also provided evidences of Amazon documentation to just make sure that you have full trust in the answers. I would request you to also like my videos and subscribe my channel for more information related videos.